Okay, guys, I just want to do a quick discussion on hair because somebody was asking about that in class. And just like everything else, there's a lot of different ways we can handle this. These first ones I'm going to do are really just based on blocking it out in a sort of graphic perspective with a lot of black and sort of just leaving lighter areas in it. Super simple approach, and we're covering a lot of area because we're putting this all in with black and we're covering a huge area very quickly. So it works out. You could do this with the side of your pencil or whatever. And I do this a lot on location because I can just block out the hair really fast before people start moving away. Once I get the main mass put in, then I can put a loose stray hair and things like that. But you want to get the main mass together first. That's going to be true on all the different ways we approach this. Same approach, different hairstyle, female this time. And I'm kind of using the bangs as sort of a graphic element, just sort of cutting them in like almost with a pair of scissors. Exact same thing. We're just using a lot of that black. We'll leave some highlights on it. I always look at the different aspects of the hair, like this part I'm doing right now, where it's sort of half a cylinder. So I just kind of treat it like part of a cylinder and light it that way, where I just leave like a little shine on it. And it's pretty effective and it's fast. You could also just mask this and then go back with your eraser and pull the highlights back out. There's a bunch of different ways you can do it. And again, once I put in the main shape, then I can put some loose hairs around wherever I want it. So to make it feel a little more natural and loose. I'm just going to do a simple linear idea here. When you have something like a bun on the top of the head or something like that, all the hair is going to radiate up towards that, or it's going to kind of curve up towards that, because that's where it's all pulling towards. And also on the back of her head, you're usually going to get a little droop there. It's not usually super tight all the way up to the bun. You'll get a little droop, and it hangs a little bit right at the bottom of the neck or the below the ear. It's going to be the same idea in a front view. So if I'm not using, blocking everything out, and by the way, where we blocked it out with black, that could be blonde hair, brown hair, blue hair. It doesn't matter. You could use the same approach. If it's gray hair, then you just go lighter on your values. And basically when I'm doing this linear thing, what I'm looking for are just the big planes of the hair. So you can see there's a big plane right to the left of her top of her head. There's one on the right of her head. And I'm just finding those planes. And then I'll just use lines to delineate where they kind of separate. If you look at somebody's hair with some length or whatever to it, you'll see those big shapes sort of overlapping each other. You want to block in that big shape first, get that all mapped out like what I'm doing here. And then again, you can put in like a loose hair or some flyaway hair on the edges and things like that, and it'll start to feel more hair-like. But if you go in and you start putting all that flyaway and individual hairs, it's going to look like spaghetti hair or a mop. And I can do that same idea. I'm going to turn the head into a 3/4 view. And then what we can do, same idea. I'm going to block in the big overall shapes. But what I like about this would be like a guy with like a nice short haircut that was really nice thick hair. You can see the front plane or the front right section of the hair sits in front of the left section, which is just kind of nice because it gives it overlap in your drawing and it just gives it a sense of volume, having that, overlap in front of it. And then once I get all that in, then I can start punching my line and trying to separate it even a little more based on where the light is. But the main thing here is I like this right front plane overlapping and staying in front of the left side. So with curls, I kind of think of it the same way I think of trees, where the interior of a tree, what you're mostly seeing is texture, and where you get more information is where you see the edge of the silhouette of the tree against the sky, where you might see some individual leaves and that kind of thing. Also on curly hair, I look at what kind of curly hair it is. Is it that ribbony curly hair? And I sort of get myself familiar with that shape. And then, like you can see here, I'm going into the interior. I have a little bit of a scribble language going there, but it's based on what I'm looking at in a person and how their curls work. It's not just scribbling. It's based on the shape of the actual curl structure. But as I go into the interior, I can get a lot looser with that. And then I can add density to that and start to make it feel like it's lit. So when it goes up to the top of the head, that scribble language will get less dense to show light hitting it, and they get more dense as it goes away from the light. And here I'm taking that same idea, tighter curl, more of a fro. I want to get loose hairs around the edges, and it's the same thing. I'm using a scribble language here, but the scribble language is based on what I look at, and then I sort of get my hands used to that shape. And then again, I'm going to dense up that curl where it goes darker, and then I'm going to go less dense up to the top of the head or wherever the light's hitting. And it's important also that the silhouettes aren't too tight, that you break the silhouette with individual hairs here and there after you get everything blocked in. And then again here, just blocking out the big main shapes of the hair in a linear way, because you want to have different approaches. You want to have a linear approach, a very graphic blocked in approach like we started with. I mean, there's just a million ways to handle this. Okay, this discussion was around because someone was asking me about this in class. So I wanted to do just sort of a starter version of how to approach this. So hopefully it'll sort of help you get started on that. And maybe later on I'll do a more detailed approach on it. But I think this big overall approach is a nice way to start it. Hopefully that's all understandable. If you guys have any questions on it, just hit me up and we'll talk about it and go into more detail on it. Thanks.